So I said, okay, let's do a call to action, right? So I organized groups from all across Ohio. They weren't even all about elections. Some of them were organizations that were citizen watchdog groups. Some of them were Right to Life, whatever. A number of people that look at it and understood fundamentally, if your election systems aren't right, it doesn't matter necessarily how much get out the vote you do. If in a way that could be taken on the margins. So getting to that point, we did a call to action. We got a lot of people who ended up writing to the Secretary of State. We have 27 state house reps who wrote that letter to the legislature asking Secretary of State what's going to be done about these groups. Because I'm going to be honest, this has been going on for many, many years. We just shined a light on it. And I'm a big believer you got to shine a light to know what you're going to do. You got to show the problem. So what ends up happening is that letter permeates through, it goes through the county prosecutors in the urban counties didn't want to prosecute in Hamilton County. So it went to the Attorney General. But the Attorney General took a pass, which surprised me to some extent, because the Attorney General said that it wasn't explicit law to go after voter registration fees. So what was going on is it was all pass this to the next person, and I'm thinking to myself, no wonder why people's confidence in this is down, because if it's not being addressed, then when are we going to truly handle these issues? So ultimately, what we ended up doing was pushing that issue, pushing a new bill called Voter Verification Act, and the whole goal of this was to give the County Board of Elections access to official data for citizenship, residency, and identity data.
Thank you.
No problem. For citizenship, residency, and identity, and the counties can do their own qualification, right, with the proper management oversight. Instead of the Secretary of State being the lone arbiter and everything working through that funnel, that's not good for us in the long term, because if you get a Secretary of State that doesn't clean voter rolls, but yet you've conditioned all the Board of Elections to just wait for the Secretary of State to do it, what's going to happen is no one's going to do it, and then you're not going to have the accountability. So we've got to get government localizing elections again. So let's talk about what I want to do in that regard. Let's talk about where we want to go as a Secretary of State post-2026. First and foremost, we got to empower the Board of Elections and expect them to accountably address the issues of eligibility verification. Every state has a responsibility to ensure whoever gets on a voter roll is fully qualified. That's basics. We got to give them the means, and we got to give them the mandate. The mandate's going to come from law because there's no criteria today that they're using to qualify. And that makes a big deal here in these urban counties especially. So once we empower them, which the Secretary of State can do, because it's written in law that they can make an agreement with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles that handles that business, we can be in a position to work. So we got to work at the ground level. We got to work to push this back to the County Board of Elections, because that's where you and I have the greatest influence over our election systems, believe it or not. Localized, bottom-up elections. All right, when we solve that issue, which we'll begin the process of doing from the moment we get in, by sharing information, which I had many projects in the military to do that, we're going to look at voter ID. What's going on with voter ID? Most of us would say, well, who has voter ID? When I came and I voted this time, I presented my voter ID. Yes, you did, physically, when you came into the polling location. But you may not know this. In 2021, when the voter ID bill was passed in Ohio, a backdoor exemption was put in for all mail-in ballots. Around that same time, we made a concerted decision, for the sake of convenience, I would argue, not integrity of the elections, to make our mail-in ballots a no-excuse system. So we combined two things. We basically said everyone can vote by mail-in ballot on the basis of convenience. At the same time, we said, oh yeah, and those people who are going to vote that way don't have to have a voter ID. So what did we just do? We created a risk. We created a threat vulnerability, and we ignored that, and for the sake of making people feel safe and comfortable to go in person. When you do policy like that, that's not good policy. So we're going to address that issue. We have 1 million Ohioans casting a ballot without a copy of a photo ID.
Oh.
So that's a lot. That's about 19%. So we're going to close that loophole. Actually, I wrote a bill. It's not been officially presented, but right before going into this race, not because of it, but before, we have one to enhance and close the loophole on voter ID. And the other thing that I'm working to do within that bill is your online registration. How many people here can you give me your hand if you use online registration? Have you used online registration, or you go through like traditional Bureau of Motor Vehicles and that kind of thing? Okay. The point is, when you register online, It doesn't even have to be you to register. There's no way for that system to know that you're that person. They don't have authentication. Fancy word. It simply means your data or information can be bought or sold, and somebody can actually go in and do that on your behalf. I think that's a foul. No bank would have let you get a loan. No bank would let you have a finance or a house, if you didn't properly validate it. So we should not treat our vote less than we treat our money. The two of them, you can argue, are interchangeable. Bad votes, bad administrations mean less money in your pocket. So, anyways, with that, that's the other aspect we're going to work on. I would look at, when it comes to the issue of mail-in ballots, I would go back to a law we had in 1977. Valid excuse. There were 16 criteria we used to determine that somebody should be allowed to vote. And now 12 states have laws on the books, to include Texas, which is leading in this direction, that allows your ability to vote on the basis of a valid excuse. I think you have to do that. And the reason I say that is, until we address the issue of these third-party groups running around, going out, registering, not all third-party groups are unscrupulous. But until we do that, we have to guard against these 3 or 4 areas of vulnerability, and we need to take a look at what these third-party groups are doing. So do we need third-party groups? Not federally speaking, but we've allowed them into the process, for-profits and nonprofits. Why would we allow a nonprofit or a for-profit to be involved in the election systems? We have election officials. We have resources, right, to do that. Yet we've allowed these things in conjunction to all come together. And I think that's where we have to re-examine and individually look at those things. Some of that will be by law, some of it will be through the Secretary of State discretion, but those are really key points. And it takes somebody like myself who's actually done the exhaustive analysis of this, who has a deep knowledge of the election system and has absolutely no qualms with looking at this just from a problem solution standpoint, not looking at it for building a political career. The people that want to typically go to the Secretary of State, as you may know, are looking at a launch point from this position to be like a senator or a governor. It's not what this position needs. You really need somebody who's strong, because this is the guardian of the entire process. And I think this job merits just being good at this job and not trying to be something beyond it. And I think that's what my candidacy is in this particular race. You have the opportunity to choose somebody alongside a governor who will be transformative, who is looking at realigning Ohio in a different way from a civic standpoint, stress, from a civic standpoint, from a lot of things that we haven't done for quality of life. He needs backup, and you have an opportunity as the electorate in May of 2026 to choose someone who wants to make elections a state of excellence. So we know what we need to do, we know our cause, and we're going to work on that as we go forward, and we're going all across the state, talking to groups. I've seen some of you. I'm grateful for y'all's loyalty and coming back and being a part of this, and we're doing quite well. I'm actually going to be on a number of radio stations on Wednesday. Down in Cincinnati, I'm on Brian Thomas. I'm going to Bob France again that day. I'm meeting with people, both people who we call our standard bearers and our grassroots. And I think this message appeals. And I think the Secretary of State's important for business services too. If you're a first-time business owner, you want to be sure you know where your application is. So what does that look like for a first-time business owner?